What's going on, everybody? Goofy Rexy here. Hope everybody is doing well. So, kind of crazy week. We had ISO 8s, and of course, we also had Scream that got introduced into yesterday's 4.4 patch. So today, I'm just going to go over a quick review on Scream, kind of just my thoughts and what I think so far about her. You know, I think she's a really good character for the symbiotes. And I guess kind of a curious question that I think some may have is, kind of her viability, in the early game or viability towards the mid game part, whether or not she's a character that you can still use and how much usage can you get out of her if you're not late game. So today we're going to be going through the kit. We're going to be going through recommended T4s. We're going to talk about the areas where she's worked best for me so far. And like I said, how viable will she be early game as well as up to the mid game point. All right, guys, sit back. Let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about here, if you don't know already, is how to unlock Scream. So you really got three options. You can buy the offer, $24.99. You can buy it twice, and open up the orbs and, see if you can unlock her. Or you can wait until the campaign rolls around in 8 days and 20 hours from when I'm recording this video to go through the event campaign to then unlock her. Then if you wait, realistically, if you core out just a little bit, right? You can probably get her to 4 stars if you continue to do the campaigns on a daily basis. So that's really kind of your options. Or you can also buy the offers and then still do the campaigns too as well, which is, why would you not do the campaign too, right? So those are your two options. In regards to who you have available to unlock that character or to use in that campaign, here are the list of the characters here. You get to use Symbiote Spiderman. There's Yo-Yo, there's Carnage, there's Venom down here, there's Miss Marvel, Yo-Yo, Ghost Rider, Graviton, Captain Marvel. There's a lot of different characters that you have access to in order to be able to use to get through that event campaign. Now, specifically, what I wanted to talk about here is just her kit, but really more so kit in terms of what the recommended T4s are. So when you're looking at her basic ability here, so she attacks the primary target for 200% damage, she applies bleeds, she clears 1 positive effect, and then she chains to 2 adjacent targets where she does 150% damage, and then she clears 1 positive effect. And the big thing is that she can chain to stealth targets too as well, which is pretty big. Now, when you're looking at T4ing this ability, you're getting an extra 50% damage to the primary and secondary targets, and then you're also applying bleed to the secondary targets too as well. Previously, before that, you weren't applying bleed, you were only clearing up 1 positive effect. So you could put a T4 on this, but I would not recommend it in my personal opinion. You don't need the extra bleed from Scream, in my opinion. I think sometimes people get a little bit too T4 happy when it comes to certain characters. I don't think you need it. Venom already applies bleed with his basic. You already have Carnage that also applies bleed too as well. If you want to add bleed to an adjacent target, you use Carnage's basic to drag it from one target to the next adjacent targets. Also Symbiote Spider-Man applies bleeds. I'm forgetting Anti-Venom's kit. He might apply bleed for all I know. Right? This team is a bleed team, so you don't need the extra additional bleeds to be added. In my personal opinion, save your T4. Not necessary for you to be able to spend the gold and spend your precious T4s on that basic ability. Now, when we're talking about a special ability, that's a little different now. So first of all, right off the bat, you're going to get this attack 4 out of 4 here. You're attacking the primary for 240% damage. You are then also clearing a positive effect again. So 2 attacks where she's clearing positive effects. She's also applying offense down, and then she's chaining to 2 adjacent targets again, 200% damage this time, clearing a positive effect and applying offense down. So the offense downs are big, especially with a team sometimes that doesn't necessarily you're waiting on Venom to do his defense up. It might, having just offense down with this team is pretty good. But when you're looking at, adding a T4 to this, I would definitely do it, not for the 40% damage to the primary and secondary targets, but just being able to clear 2 positive effects off the primary and the secondary target as opposed to clearing 1 positive effect. So, when you're thinking about Venom does flip positive effects to negative effects, but he only does it to one target, where she is attacking multiple targets, right? So she's going to be able to clear 2 positive effects, not just off one target, but then also be able to clear 2 positive effects off 2 targets. So in my opinion, that's a valuable T4, especially when you're talking about, maybe facing teams that have tanks that have taunt and defense up. You want to drag those off, or teams that just have high positive effect teams, just being able to counter them by just taking those positive effects off with Venom, like 1-2 punch them. Flip one with Venom, and then the other 3 you just take it off completely with Scream. I think it's a good T4 for you to invest into. Now the next one, also I think is also a pretty good one, and we'll talk about a little bit about why. So you attack the primary target for 250% damage. You apply slow and disrupted. You attack the adjacent targets for 200% damage. You also apply slow and disrupted too as well. And then you're reducing the speed bar for primary and secondary targets by 30%. Now, once again, the additional damage is only 50% to the primary and secondary targets. That's not the reason why we're really doing this. The reason why I would recommend doing this is because you're applying slow for 2 turns to the primary and the secondary targets. Now, Symbiote Spiderman does have a similar attack where with his ultimate, where he does do a 2-turn slow on everybody. Everybody get the 2-turn slow with the ultimate. But I think when you're teaming it up with just a few things to think about here, right? She's already applying slow. She's applying disrupted. She's reducing the speed bar too by 30%. And then of course she's extending, the slows for 2 turns. If you put the T4 on it, when you're thinking about her passive and the fact that you're going to be speeding up, the entire team when you do kill someone, you're thinking about reduction of speed bar, Symbiote Spider-Man also applying slows. You're talking about an opportunity here to be able to go before they ever really have a chance to get going and killing a team off. So I think just the additional slows are really good. You can kind of time it. You do one with Symbiote Spider-Man, and then you wait a couple turns, and then you do it again with Scream if you need to, because it's just so damn fast. You probably won't, but I would say this is definitely a recommended T4 in my personal opinion. So far, the ultimate and the special, in my opinion, are definitely recommended T4s. Now, with her passive ability, I'm going to say this is a big hell no that she put a T4 on this one. So on death of any character, you heal all symbiote allies for 5% of this character's max health, plus apply speed up for 2 turns. Cool, that's dope. We already talked about that. That's fantastic. If this character has 3 or more symbiote allies, apply negative 30% resistance to all enemies. But then you get this little poop, plus 5% healing. No, I definitely would not recommend that one. She doesn't have high health. She's not a high max health character anyways. She really benefits from the additional health, max health from Symbiote Spider-Man, from, getting extra heals, things like that. That's really where she does, get her increased survivability by primarily being with the symbiotes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in my opinion, definitely not worth the T4. Save your T4. So the only T4s I recommend are her special and her her ultimate too as well, guys. So listen, we'll talk a little bit now just about kind of like breaking points and weak points for Scream. They're minor, but just a few things that I want you to pay attention to. All right, so as I said, I wanted to talk about just some quick weakness or breakpoints when it comes to Scream. So some of this you can probably take with a grain of salt because I only have her at 3 gold stars, 2 red stars. Obviously, her event campaign isn't around yet, and I didn't get great pulls, by buying the offers. So, once again, take it with a grain of salt. But I did do like a quick simulation here in regards to her base health. Her base health is only 55k for me right now, so it's not really that great. But I did do kind of like a quick simulation here in the MSF.gg page where I simulated just getting her to 5 gold and then to 4 red stars. Typically 4 stars on a character is typically what you can... They're pretty good at that point. They can do what you need them to do once you get them to 4 stars. But I simulated going to 70 25% or maxed out star tech, right? And then giving her the gear tier 13. When you look at her health, it's only about 106, 132, which is really not that great because for the most part, you're using a 70 gear tier 13 character in U7. You know, you're using them for high content. You're probably using them in arena. Like your typical characters that you bring up that high, they're high usage characters for you. So 106,000 health is not that great. Unless, right, you're only using her with the symbiote team, which is really what I'm saying is that she probably is not going to be good outside of that symbiote team, and specifically not really going to be good without symbiote Spider-Man, and probably a combination of either anti-venom or Carnage or Venom or whatever the case is. With symbiote Spider-Man, she does get that increased 30% health, and then she also does heal whenever there's a negative effect placed on a character for 3%. Carnage also does give speed up to her, so the more chances that she has to go, then the more chances that, as long as she's also with symbiote Spider-Man, the more chances that she also does get to do 100% drain and then heal off of that too as well. You know, and then of course with anti-venom can clear things like heal block or defense downs off of her too. And of course, with Venom, you know, she does have defense ups that are available to her as long as Venom stays above 95%. So the point is, she's really good with the symbiotes, but outside of the symbiotes, she's probably not going to survive as well. She's going to still do damage and do some really good stuff for you when it comes to like applying debuffs and things like that. But for the most part, outside of that symbiote team, she might not be a high surviving character, you know, for you. Now with the introduction of ISO 8s, I don't want to get too crazy on it. Seriously, I really don't want to get too crazy on it. But, you know, with the introduction of ISO 8s here, you do have the option of putting, you know, any class on her and upgrading the class, you know, and giving her, let's say that you wanted to go with Raider. I'm not saying this is what you should put on screen, by the way, but let's say that you wanted to go with Raider. You do get at level 2, you do get 10% max health increase, and then you also do at level 4 get 10% max increase too as well. So you're in total you're getting 20% max health. Plus, you know, if you wanted to use her outside of the symbiote team, you just need to make sure that she does have increased health, you know, too as well. People have mentioned also that they want to use the symbiotes can be used against Black Order in the arena area. With her ability to, you know, lower the resistance of teams at negative 30%, that's pretty big against a team like the Black Order team. The problem is, though, once again, she does need 3 or more symbiotes. So in general, I think the symbiote team is probably not going to be as good against the Black Order team unless they actually do have Scream with them. And of course, Scream is not that great outside of the symbiote. So you got to think, you know, it's kind of a hand-to-hand thing here, you know, when it comes to that. So this could affect, you know, her being not being greatly used outside of the symbiote team, you know, could greatly affect, you know, early game players or mid game players that do not have Carnage or symbiote Spider-Man yet, mainly really symbiote Spider-Man. So she's probably not going to be a great character for you to invest into in the early part of the game, you know, until you do get like symbiote Spider-Man or something like that. But she's still going to be a good controller, good villain controller. She does have the Spider-Verse tag, so she can be used with other characters, maybe even like the Sinister 16. So she still does have some viability there and some usage there, you know, when it comes to that. But once again, just because of the base health stats, that's just a little bit of my concern. And then of course, just outside usage and lack of survivability outside the symbiote team. It's just my concern when it comes to her. But listen, I digress. I'm done talking about it. Scream is a great character. I don't want to talk anything bad about her anymore. She's a great character. I like her. I can't wait for Anti-Venom to come into the game. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. My guess is that Anti-Venom is probably not going to come into the game until, what, like the end of the month or something like that? End of October, I would say, just simply because you got to throw in She-Hulk in there too. She's supposed to be released too as well into the game. So I'm assuming they're going to go She-Hulk and then they're going to go Anti-Venom. So listen, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being here. It was absolutely a pleasure doing this. And as I always say, be blessed and be safe.